Welcome to the Next Level Life Show. I'm your host, Bill Hargenrader, creator of the Next Level Life. And today I have a good friend, a great guest, Brent Seal. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everybody. And yeah, Bill, thanks for having me, man.
Awesome, brother. So Brent Seal is founder of Mavrixx, a social enterprise dedicated to supporting and inspiring. And normally I read a bio about Mavrixx and about Brent, but Brent wants to just kind of go into his story and reveal his journey and how things got started. So Brent, man, without any further ado, what drives you? What motivates you? What's your background? What's your story, brother?
I guess the main sort of inflection point of my story that sort of drives me still to this day was a few years ago, 2007. I was struggling with my mental health. I had an episode of psychosis. I ended up attempting suicide. Ended up in the hospital on a psych ward. Absolutely terrified and quite suicidal. And I was diagnosed with schizophrenia at that time, and that was very shocking and disturbing to hear someone say about you. Yeah. But at the same time, it was very relieving in a way, because it sort of gave a purpose and a reason for the feelings, the thoughts, the beliefs I had at the time of people wanting to kill me and the world coming to an end and all this kind of stuff. So I got support and got stabilized, and sort of three things happened right after that. Was one, I just thought to myself, if I ever recover, which I thought might happen in 10 years or so, I said, if I ever recover, I want to start an organization and help other young people that are going through something similar, because just the emotional pain, the struggle, the isolation I felt was just a horrible, horrible thing. And I knew then that other people were going through it and would go through it in the future. Yeah. And just shifting that mindset from like, how can everybody help me to how can I help other people? That sort of shift started to drive what I wanted to do. The second thing that happened, I was just like, I want to get as fit and healthy as I can possibly get, to never go through that again. And that sort of started driving new passions into health and wellness and nutrition and fitness and adventures. And then this third thing that happened was this idea to climb Mount Everest appeared out of nowhere. I literally had never really hiked before, been in the outdoors. I was like a hockey player, growing up from Canada, so big into hockey. And then after high school, the hockey scholarship to the U.S. didn't really work out, so I moved to Whistler for a couple of years, did the snowboard thing. So I was never like into the outdoors at all, but this idea to climb Mount Everest just came to me, and I thought, that's something that if I could do that, I might be able to inspire some people that, hey, this illness doesn't have to be a life sentence, and that having these illnesses doesn't have to hold you back from pursuing big goals and your dreams and living a great life. And so everybody at the time sort of told me, like, Brent, like, we're trying to get back to reality here. Maybe let's set the goal to get back to school, because I had to drop out of school. Yeah. And so I sort of put it to the side and forgot about it a lot of the time. But over the years, it just kept coming back to me. So that was 2007. Ended up getting into hiking and backpacking and trail running and rock climbing, mountaineering. And it was really that process of just continuing to allow that goal to pull me towards it. And that sort of fueled my recovery and the motivation to just keep pushing myself. And so that passion for the outdoors and adventures just kept emerging. And then the second passion for mental health kept emerging. So I started a student club on campus. That turned into a nonprofit for a little while. Then I worked for a nonprofit after graduating, and then started Mavrixx about 1.5 years ago, went fully self-employed with that. And the intention there is just to help these young people who are struggling and help them with the language, the strategies, the support systems to recover from mental health challenges and live well. And by learning about mental health, by being able to talk about it, because so many people just don't have the language, don't have the comfort in talking about mental health. And we all have mental health, whether we have a mental illness or not. We can have good days and bad, and sure. Just having that language, having those tools to understand our mental health and to have control over our mental health can help us all perform better, whether we're students, entrepreneurs, working in a corporation. I think mental health is one of the most underutilized, underleveraged strategies and tools we have access to. And our brain is literally the most powerful tool in the universe, right? That we know of. Yeah. And so why not learn about that and, get control of those levers and, improve our lives by doing that, right?
Yeah, no, I mean that's awesome. It's someone taking notes here. I mean, I've known you for years now, and it's just when I hear you tell the story and you kind of take your takeaways, just you immediately put yourself in there. And as far as I like that where you start looking to help other people. That's when you kind of made that shift. And there's like a quote, I'm not sure who said it or if I'm butchering it, but like stop. It might be Les Brown maybe. When you stop looking for miracles and start looking to be a miracle for somebody, the game, shifts.
Yeah.
It's not like what can people do for me? It's what can I do from them, and it just shifts you out of that. And then the health aspect. I mean, that's super important. Before the show, we were talking about getting in the flow, and I was thinking that for me, when I'm in the flow, it's when I'm the healthiest, when I'm eating the best. I'm not drinking alcohol, when I'm not drinking coffee. All these, I minimize all these things, and it actually helps my brain just work effectively and efficiently on its own. Can you talk a little more about like what that impact has for you, mental health wise, and then also just you're a busy guy, climbing mountains, running a business. Like what does health and healthy eating and healthy living look like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, realizing I had this illness made me realize that it's more important for me than the average person to stay extra healthy because the risks for me are so high, right? I mean, I could fall back into a relapse at any time and get suicidal, right? And things can go wrong. So that was sort of the urgency I felt that I think often people feel when they've struggled with something that sort of kicks them into high gear. But really what that's allowed me to do in the last couple of years is take on a lot more work and projects and things in my life, but at the same time feel less stressed than I used to and have more fun while doing it. And that combination, as soon as I started tapping into that, it's like, whoa, like you add some superfood smoothies in and some good nutrition and proper rest and, some good like physical activity, build a support system around yourself. It's a lot of things, a lot of work, but like you set those things up and every increase to any one of those areas you do sort of overflows and helps every other area, right? So you get a better rest consistently, that helps you have more energy to exercise, and exercise becomes a little easier. You exercise a little more and all of a sudden you feel like eating a little healthier because it makes you feel even better, and it all sort of feeds off each other. But that's really the result I've been after, and then helping other people achieve is like do more stuff you enjoy doing and pack more into your life to just live life fully, but at the same time feel less stressed and have more fun. It's like that's sort of the golden combination I'm always after, and just constantly trying to learn more strategies to do that better, more efficiently and easier, and then just flipping that over to share that with others, because doing it and living it, it's like, wow, like these last few years living with schizophrenia, one of the world's most debilitating diseases, have been some of the best years of my life. I'm like, how is that possible? Like, it's because of all this extra stuff. So I think like with mental health especially, I always sort of say to people like medication and therapy are often needed, right, when you're struggling with your mental health, but never enough, right? Because they might get you, there's sort of this continuum I think of like struggling and getting by, and then thriving and sharing. And by sharing, I sort of mean like sharing your gifts, sharing your message. That's sort of beyond, the only thing I could think of beyond thriving. And a lot of people sort of get stuck in this loop of struggling and getting by. And so the medication or the therapy with your, struggling with depression and anxiety or something like schizophrenia, it might get you from struggling to getting by, but it's all those extra sort of wellness components that are going to get you, pop you over to this thriving and sharing sort of cycle. And so, yeah, for me, it's just like, if I can share that information and hopefully some inspiration and turn that into my business, pull some adventures into my business, like that's my dreams, right? And so just trying to do that and do more of it.
No, that's awesome, brother. And it's interesting because we talked about, or you just mentioned, having a mental illness and you focus in more on that. My wife Danielle's type 1 diabetic since she was 9 years old. She's Danielle, diabetes dominators are business, and her level of health that she has, the things that she has to do in order to manage her, to manage the disease, keep track of blood sugars, all the food she's taking, measure all the carbs, stay healthy, stay active. It's her focus is on people with diabetes, but these are the same things that people who don't have diabetes need to do to stay healthy. The same thing that you're preaching and showing and demonstrating by example are the same things that people who don't have a mental illness, need to do to stay healthy. So what are your, do you have any thoughts on that? Do you ever just I know as because we kind of go into, what you do, who you help, but also kind of the entrepreneur's journey. We talk about market and focusing on one area, but when you were building up Mavrixx, do you focus on people with mental illness, or do you kind of spread it out, or what are your thoughts?
I focus primarily on youth that have struggled with their mental health, whether they've been diagnosed with mental illness or not. It doesn't really matter as much, but it's like, and they might be like a high performer that they know they're not performing at a high level because something's off, right? Whether they just don't feel well, or they just don't have the energy or motivation, something's not going well. And usually it's a mindset or mental sort of thing that's going on. And so those are the people I help, again, go from that sort of struggling and getting by cycle to popping into thriving and sharing. So I do that through some programs and coaching and a lot of speaking. But that's sort of the idea, is just to help people that aren't doing well with their mental health, whatever that looks like, and give them tools and language and strategies to overcome those challenges. And then, so that's like, if it's a starting point, it might be sort of some basic information and awareness and understanding about our mental health. But then beyond that, it becomes a process of optimizing. You might be already a high performer. It's like, if you're a high performer, you usually you're the type of person you always want to take to the next level, right? And and so that's what the path I'm on right now, is just continue to optimize now, right? It's no longer a process of revolution, but evolution, right? It's just like little tweaks. And and Bo Eason, who we both know, a great teacher and trainer, he always talks about, right the ship. So you're going to be off track 99% of the time, but just realize that and just right the ship, and just don't feel guilty, don't get down on yourself. Like we all get off track, right? But just being aware of when you're off track and just righting the ship is that continual process of growth and learning that's sort of lifelong, right? And that's the fun of it, because the better you get at it, the more you can do, the less stress you can feel, and the more fun you can have. And that's fulfilling and rewarding in so many ways.
Yeah. Awesome. No, I like that. I like that the mental health, and going back to that as kind of like of your scale, because that's where your message impacts anybody. So you have a lot of experiences, a lot of adventures. You want to share like one of your craziest one? I mean, I don't know. I saw one where you're falling off a mountain earlier last year or something. Oh, good for you. Why don't you share like one of your maybe your scariest moment, maybe share one of your happiest moments? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, now
same one where you're like, I'm alive,
Yeah. That experience last summer was probably the scariest moment, one of them at least. I was a bit out of my league doing some alpine climbing, so alpine rock climbing, multi-pitch climbing, which I had really never done before. And we were on these mountains up in Squamish, BC. We had helicoptered in for 7 days to climb there. This beautiful hut in this mountain region. And we were trying to climb this mountain and traversing across this ridge, and I didn't feel comfortable just traversing on my own. We were simul climbing, which essentially means you're just setting gear as you go. And I wanted a belay, so I asked for a belay down this little steep pitch. And we had a cam, so a little piece of protection, like anchor here near me, and then the leader had some little piece in where he was. And so I was belaying off the one near me and just putting my full weight on it and essentially walking down, sort of being belayed. And the cam was in a rock. There was a crack in the rock that was just jammed in there, which is sort of normal. But what happened was the cam put too much pressure on the rock, and the rock just exploded. Yeah. And so there's two people behind me on the same rope, four of us on this rope. It was pretty much a cliff edge, so I just went tumbling like backward, like just launched backwards. Luckily landed right on my back, where I had a huge backpack on with a 60-meter spare rope in it. So I think that sort of cushioned my fall. I had a helmet on that took a hit, but not too bad. I just tumbled and tumbled, and I just, it was weird. I mean, people talk about like their lives flashing before them and all this kind of stuff. None of that happened. It was really calm, and I just like really focused and thinking, okay, this isn't so bad. Like literally just like, this isn't so bad. Like, you know, I'm just bouncing here. And then the second thought was like, okay, am I going to stop, or when am I going to stop? And then like, talk about a flow experience where just time slowed down, and it was just like, whoa, but it also happened so fast. So it was just weird experience, but very clear and focused, and just like very focused on, okay, how am I going to stop? When am I going to stop? And then all of a sudden the rope tugged, and I stopped, and I just stood up. I was cut up and scratched, but generally okay. And looked up, and what had happened was the anchor blew. So the person behind me, the girl, she got sort of tugged and you know, strung by the rope. The guy behind her, 30 seconds before the anchor blew, he had slung the rope over a rock just as a backup anchor, as a protection mechanism, which is a smart move. And that's what held them from falling. So if he hadn't done that, she would have fallen double the distance of me. He would have fallen triple the distance of me. And we would have all been on the first anchor the leader had, which would have, everyone's told me that would have blown. So the four of us would have tumbled 200, 300, 400 feet down this mountain and pretty much all died. You know, it took us about 6 hours to get back to the hut after that, which was, I was just shaken and sort of in shock and just, you know, trying to get down safely without more things going wrong. And it was a little too intense, and a good wake up call. And one of the core, I was the next couple of weeks, I was just like shaken up and trying to talk to a lot of my climbing friends and mentors and support system, and just like mine the lessons from that. And one of the biggest lessons I learned was actually Brent and Mavrixx talks a lot about this, the confidence competence loop, or the confidence competence, sort of loop. And And so what I realized was that it's not about having more or less, it's about matching them up. Because if your confidence is really high, but your competence is low, that puts you in dangerous situations. Same as if your competence is high and your confidence is low, right? And that's sometimes transferable, but not always, right? So my confidence and competence in climbing mountains, mountaineering, was high, but alpine climbing, not so high, right? And, you know, all these sort of things were at play. So it was learning that I would rather be climbing with people and myself be low confidence and low competence than one higher than the other. Because if it's low and low, I mean, at least you're not going to get into horrible situations, right? You'll know, hey, we can't go there. But if one's high, one's low, like, that's a tricky situation. So, I mean, that's a big sort of side effect benefit of climbing mountains like that, or really anything we do like that when we're pushing our limits, is the transferable lessons and skills you bring into other parts of your life, whether that's your business or your relationships or your health. So mountains have taught me a lot of lessons. That was one of the harder ones to learn. But, you know, come away from that and just, you know, all you can do is try to learn from that, not do it again, and, you know, thank something that you made it through, right? Because that was out of my control, and I just stopped and, you know, how to explain that, right?
So what's perhaps maybe, I mean, that's obviously take the lessons away from that, and it's good. It's a good practice, not just when your life is on the line, but, you know, having an after action review whenever you put a new, you know, product out there, or you give a talk, you know, and just getting that feedback and, you know, figuring out how you can improve the, you know, on the next outing. What might be one of your favorite moments that you had on an adventure?
I think in 2013, I think it was the summer, I've been training for a while. I wanted to climb Mount Rainier in Washington for 2-3 years by now, and I knew that'd be a good stepping stone towards this dream of climbing Everest. And because it was, you know, big mountain experience, 14,400 feet, and a lot of people train there for the Himalayas. And so I ended up climbing that mountain, and then 2 weeks later running my first ultramarathon. And that sort of combined experience was a real shift in my mindset that I could physically and mentally climb Mount Everest. Obviously, there's still, there'd be a lot more to do, but it was just a turning point in my belief in myself that if I could do this fitness-wise and mentally, get up this mountain and run this ultramarathon, I think I can, climb Mount Everest. Because before that, I mean, where I was coming from right after my illness was not a lot of physical activity. The medication made me gain 50 pounds because I, sort of stopped playing sports. Just the medication makes you gain weight. So I gained 50 pounds. I was smoking, like all these kind of things were just like, and I was so focused on my mental health. And this other turning point happened where I'm like, no, I need to focus on wellness, because it's all good to have a positive mind and not a ill mind. But if you're overweight, if you're smoking, if you're eating fast food, if you're not exercising, like that's not a great life, right? And so I made that shift, but I was coming from this place where a 2-kilometer run was like the max I could do, and that like I needed a break halfway between, in that 2 kilometers, right? Literally. And so just latching on to those bigger goals and having this bigger goal of Mount Everest that I always wanted to work towards, just again pulled me. It was like a magnet, right? Just pulling me towards it and fueling that that progress, and with the purpose attached to it, right? So that was part of the fuel. Was I don't want to just do this because I want to stand on top of a mountain. I want to do it to reach people and to share this message around mental health and try to inspire people that are currently struggling, right? Because I remember what that was like. And one of the first things I did when I was diagnosed was Google search schizophrenia success stories, right? And the problem was it was really hard to find them. I found Ellen Sachs, who's a law and psychiatry professor at USC, and I read her book. But she was and she had a Yale law degree, and she went to Oxford, like while she was struggling and after and all this. And so incredibly inspiring person. But the problem with schizophrenia especially is that a lot of the people who succeed with the illness don't open up about it. Right? Yeah. And that sort of creates a bias towards negativity around the illness, because we hear a lot about the horrible stories, the tragedies, all this kind of stuff around the illness, but we don't hear those success stories. So that was early on, and again, another decision to be open about my illness from day one, but also to try to keep pushing myself to try to be one of those success stories, because I could, it's so hard to find them, right? And so that was that back to that Rainier ultramarathon thing. It was just a turning point where I just was like, okay, I think I can do this, and I'm going to just take it a little more seriously and work a little harder towards it. And then just last month, summited the Aconcagua, which is the highest peak in South America, sort of another stepping stone towards this goal. And hoping to climb Denali up in Alaska, highest peak in North America, in May of this year. And then hoping to do Everest next year.
Okay, I was gonna say, where's Everest at on there? So
yeah, so Everest is spring of 2017, the hope, and that's the 10-year anniversary to the month where I had my suicide attempt, hospitalization, and diagnosis. So like, I'm trying to stick to that timeline to sort of stand on top on the 10-year mark, and and working hard towards that. So.
Awesome, brother. Well, I mean, we kind of covered a lot of lessons. So one of the things we're going to do is talk about mental health and lessons. So I think we covered a number of them of the time we have left. Can you maybe share? I mean, you're an entrepreneur through and through. You're a lifestyle entrepreneur, as far as my definition goes, of following something that you're passionate about. I mean, sometimes lifestyle entrepreneur is just having a business that makes money to allow you to do what you want to do. And you're combining having a business and doing what you want to do at the same time. So for people out there that are inspired by your story, that are looking to start, or they're on their own entrepreneur's journey, lifestyle entrepreneur's journey, what would be one of your biggest pieces of advice? Maybe not the number one, but of the top three, like what's something that you would tell somebody in that position?
I think the most important thing is making sure whatever you're doing is sustainable. So even when I was trying to make the shift from my job to fully self-employed, I realized to myself, I said, I can do this in 3 months. I could really hustle like my butt off and generate the business opportunities and the revenue to do this, like say within 3 months. But I realized to myself, I couldn't sustain that mentally, physically, energy wise. So I had to slow that timeline down and just say, maybe it's 6 to 12 months that this happens over, but it's sustainable, right? So I'm still enjoying it. I'm still, my stress levels aren't through the roof. You know, my mind is still clear. I'm, you know, and I have the energy to keep doing it. And so just, and so that sort of plays into capacity, right? So, you know, the more capacity you have personally, and then beyond that on your team and through leveraging things like online platforms, the more capacity you have, the more you can do, the faster you can do things. So then the whole process for me is like, how do I build my capacity? And now as part of training for ultramarathons and running ultramarathons was like, if I can get to the point where at any given day I can run a 50-kilometer run, it's not about saying I do that or, you know, doing that as much as knowing I have the energy to do that, and that flows into the work week, right? So all of a sudden I'm at that level of fitness and energy that the work week doesn't feel so hard anymore, right? So I can pack more in, get more done. So really focusing on those two things, like making sure whatever you're doing is sustainable with your energy, with your mental health, your the projects you take on, etc. And then really focusing on building your capacity and not just building your capacity in more tech tools and this kind of stuff, but like building your capacity in yourself. That goes back to your nutrition, your fitness, your support team, the rest, you know, your mindset. Keep learning. And so if we can just really, like those early days as an entrepreneur, it's like it's all about your capacity, right? How much you can take on to really grow this thing, the heavy lifting it takes. That, I mean, I even underestimated that going in, right? How much work it would take just to get off the ground, right? It's a lot of heavy lifting and energy it takes. And it's just like, you know, build that starting today, or if you're already building that, double your effort on building that, because that pays off dividends in huge ways. And I think in your business, and I mean, I'm now I feel like a solid capacity myself, but now my whole plan for this year is like, okay, shift to more online as a scalability sort of strategy and leveraging tool, and start building a team. So, you know, now just start building a team, and that's that sort of next step of capacity building for Mavrixx, right? Beyond just myself, but early days when it's just you, or just you and your business partners, like your personal capacity is one of the number one assets of that business, right?
No, I like it. I like it a lot. It's like the idea of spending a lot of energy. Well, obviously, you know, making it sustainable, increasing your capacity. When you increase your capacity, that allows you to up the sustainability. Bringing on team members allows you to, you know, increase that level. So as long as you can increase both at the same time. And I've seen plenty of people that they'll start. I have a friend who started a daily motivational, you know, video series, and out the gate, he just like every single day and put all his time into editing and all this stuff. And it's like, that's really great. You're creating content and putting it out there, but there's like one person watching that right now, you know? So, you know, taking that into consideration, you kind of build both of them and take into also this kind of the exponential growth curve. You know, the hockey stick, you know, analogy for your Canadian background, but you know, it's the things you do, the small little incremental things that are growing. Eventually, it'll take off, and that really gets back into that. You know, what's sustainable, what your capacity is now, and you know, it might not look like you're making a huge amount of progress, but when you look back in the last 6 months, the last year, the last 10 years, coming up next year, you can see all the amazing things that you've done. So. I mean, we could talk all day. We could really go, you know, riff back and forth. But we're gonna wrap things up. So what's one thing or a couple things? What's happening with Mavrixx next? What's is there? I mean, I've seen videos of you talking in, you know, huge, you know, what was the hockey stadium? What was it? The one talk you were giving?
Yeah, Rogers Arena.
That's pretty. So what are maybe some things that are coming down the road that you could tell people about that are watching right now?
One of the most exciting things I'm working on is an ebook, and it'll be not a huge ebook, but it'll cover my core foundational ideas around mental health that I've been collecting over the last little while. And it'll be pretty simple. It'll be like 1 or 2 pages per idea, but these are sort of the most fundamental foundational ideas that I've learned and applied myself, and just try to integrate into my life. And these are the ideas that changed my life in many good ways. And so I'm just going to collect that into an ebook, writing it right now. I'm going to post it onto my website for free for the first year. After that, I'm going to charge for it. But my goal is to get 10,000 people this year to download and read that ebook. So that'll be live probably in about a month time, sometime in March. So you can check my website. There'll be a form on there to fill out just to access it. And that's what I want to just keep doing is putting more content out there, especially online. So I do a lot of that. Doing a lot of videos right now on my Facebook page, Mavrixx, which is spelt funny, but you can probably put a link up somewhere for people to find it. But essentially, it's really focused on the Facebook page, posting a lot of daily content on there, a lot of videos, ideas around mental health and wellness, and then the ebook coming out sometime in March 2016. So if people are interested in learning more about this, that's the best way to do that, I think.
Awesome. And this is going to go live. So we got March 2016. That's the deadline. You got to hold yourself to it now.
Yeah. It's happening, man. Yeah.
Now we'll definitely post a link to Mavrixx, your social media pages, all that. And right now you can post not now, go and sign up. Definitely Brent's got a lot of wisdom to share.
And so I don't know when this is posted, but even if they go on my website right now and sign up to the email list, whoever's on that email list from now on will get that ebook.
Cool.
As long as it's this year. So appreciate that, Bill. And
awesome.
Always loved connecting with you.
Yeah, I know this is great. This is really great. So we're thanks for joining us. We're gonna wrap this up, man. For everybody out there, we're gonna post all Brent's links below. Check him out. Sign up to get more updates from him. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. And this has been great. We'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, everybody. Take care.